This is an interview with Mr. Calvin Bunton for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. Today is September 6, 1997. I want to thank you, Mr. Bunton, for taking time out of your schedule to come and talk with me today about the Civil Rights Movement. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. I just want to start by asking you some general questions about your family, your mother and father. Were they from Birmingham?
Well, my mother's from Tennessee, and
Okay.
my father's from down out Tuscaloosa.
Is that right? What part of Tennessee is your mother from?
I don't know just what part she's from, but she's from the state of Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
And he's from Tuscaloosa.
Oh, okay. So where did they meet? Do you know where they?
You know, that's a good question, because I mean, after they had passed, I often wondered that, you know,
Yeah.
how in the world, or where did they meet?
Yeah, they met somewhere in between, maybe here in Birmingham.
Right.
Yeah. But you were born here in Birmingham.
Yes, I was born in Birmingham, out in the north side, North Birmingham.
Okay. What kind of work did your daddy do?
Well, my daddy, he worked in the mine. He's a miner.
Was he a coal miner?
Coal miner.
Coal miner. Okay. Was he a member of the UMW?
I'm quite sure he was
Yeah.
back in the Union. Well, the Union was pretty strong back then, but you know how that was.
Yeah, that's right. Well, did your mother work outside of the home?
No, she's strictly,
Housewife.
housewife.
Uh-huh. How old were you when they died?
They've been dead about 20 years. I was about 48.
Okay. So they both of them did raise you then.
Right,
Uh-huh.
right. And I think about that a lot of times, because out of all the children, we were all grown when they passed.
Okay. Do you know how much education they had? How much schooling did they go?
Very little. My mother, she finished 8th grade. I don't know just how much my father had.
Yeah. Well, the 8th grade was probably pretty good back in the
It
time.
was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was good.
That's right. That's right. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Well, right now I have one brother and one sister, but it was 6 of us in all. 2 girls and 4 boys.
And where were you in that mix? Were you the oldest, the youngest?
No, I was down about the 4th.
Oh, okay. So you were sort of like in the middle.
In the middle, right.
And you say you were born and raised up in the north side?
North Birmingham.
North Birmingham. And then
Back then, it was a little mining camp, Segregation.
Segregation, okay.
So that's all still North Birmingham back out
Right.
there. So it's pretty close together.
And what school did you start first grade?
Well, I went to the 1st grade and placed a little school out in Balls. That's the name of it then. It's Eldon City. Back out in there, back out near Cottageville.
Right.
And then from there to Hooker City, and that's where I finished high school.
Okay. What do you remember about your elementary school days?
Well,
in terms of school, were there any events that sort of stand out in your mind?
well, one that stands out in my mind, and I often think about it now, we played basketball and we played on a court that was gravel, and a pair of shoes would last us only about 2 weeks. And I think about that sometime now when I see these children playing on this nice,
Yeah.
throw out there.
That's right. It's different. Playing on ground with basketball is pretty tough.
That's right. Tough on shoes anyway.
Yeah. And you left, what was it, Balls Elementary School?
Right.
And that was a company school, I would assume.
Uh,
Was it in the Sarrington, like a mining camp?
no, this wasn't in a mining camp. It wasn't a, company school.
Was it a Jefferson County
It
school?
was a county school.
County school. Okay. And you left there and went to Hooper City.
Correct.
How was that transition, the movement from elementary school to Hooper City School, high school.
Well, it's a big thing because at Hooper City we had football, and there were more things to do.
Mhm.
And then you begin to kind of get up in age, and you know how that is once you get up to 12, 13 years old.
Right. Did you participate in any of the extracurricular activities? Any of the sports?
When I tried, I played, but I wasn't too good at it. I played baseball. I was pretty good at baseball, but I never was too good at football. But I always tried to play it.
Yeah. So you played on the school team?
All right.
Mhm.
And I ran track. I was good at, running track. I was fast. But that was about the extent of it. I had speed, and that was about it.
Yeah, that's all you need when you're running track. Right? Speed.
Right.
So what did you do after you finished high school?
Well, actually, I like in 1 year from finishing high school, and I was drafted in the Army. I was a year behind. I went in the Army and stayed about 3 years, and I came back out and finished high school. And after finishing high school, I went to work, and I've been working ever since.
What was your first job out of high school?
First job out of high school was I was cleaning houses. I used to work with a man that had real estate, Lord Bunton, and he'd buy houses, fix them up, and he would clean them out and sell them. And I would go in there and make sure that everything was cleaned out, especially the bath and stuff like that.
And you had spent 3 years in the Army.
Right.
Were you in World War II?
World War II.
Did you see action?
No, I was right behind the line. I was in the quartermaster.
And what were the quartermasters?
Quartermaster was deal with supplies. If we didn't move supplies, nothing moved. We was the heart of the Army.
The Red Ball Express.
Right. And in the quartermaster, you do some of everything. You drive trucks. At one point, I was in what they call demolition. And this was something when you come back from the front line, you have all these lights and bulbs on it, and we take them in this place and clean them up and spray them and all this. It was kind of, that part was kind of interesting, but the Army was an experience that something else that I often think about. We were in a battalion in a battalion consists of 4 companies, and each company consists of about 160 men. And there were 3 black companies and 1 white company. And this white company was uptown doing the paperwork. And each company is supposed to have so many non-commissioned officers, like corporals, private, PFC.
Right.
And what they did to us was, whereas we were supposed to have 3 corporals, we only had 2. And where the white company was supposed to have 3 corporals, they had 4.
So you took one of yours.
Right. And they took one from each black company. And how they did that, and that's why I don't have no confidence in the federal government today. Because they was crooked then, and I believe that they are crooked now.
That stuck with you.
Still with me, even today. I don't even look at Army pictures, because I know it's a bunch of stuff. We were up in the mountains.
Where were you stationed?
We were stationed in Calcutta, India, right out of Birmingham. Black people built You heard tell them the Burma Road?
Yes, right.
They built the Burma Road. The monsoon was set in, and it was, the first time they went through, it was hard. Lost a lot of men from mosquitoes, malaria fever.
Right.
And after this road was built, then they pulled all the black soldiers out and made a picture of it. And only the white was in this picture.
In the building of the road.
In the building of the road, but they didn't build it. They just went through the motion after it had been built and after all these black soldiers had lost their lives from the mosquitoes. In that entire picture, they had only one black soldier. The rest of them was white. And when they was building the road, they had no white soldiers, all was white, all was black.
That's really
So these kind of things, I mean, kind of stick on your mind, think about it,
Well, how was that transition from Birmingham, Alabama to the military and then being confronted with that kind of thing? Was Birmingham, living in Birmingham at that time, what was that like?
Well, during that time, being young, and we really didn't know too much about what was going on. We knew that we had dirt roads, and the county would come out. At that particular time, they had what they call a divide line. White lived up to this point, well back there in the black color, and they would live from there. The county would come out and scrape the road, put gravels on the road up till this point where blacks stopped. And then from there on, they wouldn't bother. So we would go down there and get buckets and steal this gravel off the road and bring it up on our end of the side,
So that's the only way you got gravel on your road was to steal the gravel from the white side
Right.
and take it to your side.
Right. So it was, but back then that was like, this is just the way it was, and so.
It was just taken for granted, and that's the way it was.
And everybody was able to, and I guess that's why black people got along as well as they did. They were more together than they are now. I see them being more divided now than ever before.
After you got out of the military, then you came back and you decided to finish high school.
Right.
How old were you then?
17, about 20. Yeah, 21.
Were there other men who had gone to the military, came back and finished high school? That was done.
That was quite a bit. They had what they call the GI Bill. And you could go to school and the government would pay you, but the blacks only had a limited amount of trades that they could take up.
What were some of those trades?
Well, they had mechanics, upholstery, printing,
Shoe repair.
shoe repair, and that was about it. But the thing about that, and everybody kept saying they gonna add some more, what happened in cases like that, they send the new equipment to the white students, and after 4 years, every so often, things change, and they would take this old equipment from the white student, send them to the black student, and the white students get new equipment. So we would always have to learn on old equipment that they have just about wore out.
So that meant you were always behind.
Always 4 years behind in mechanics. Not only that, in everything else that they come up with, you've always been that far behind. Even in books, I went to the store once to purchase a book, and just looking around. And while I was looking around, black lady came in and asked for a sixth grade history book. And this white clerk said, "I'm sorry," said, "we out of them, so we don't have them anymore." So the lady said, "Okay, thank you," and she walks on out. And in the meantime, a white woman walks in, and I'm just browsing around the store. So she said, "I would like to have a sixth grade history book." And the lady reached over there and sold a history book. So they had different books that you learned out. And if you went to whenever they give a test, they had the test made up of what the whites learned in their school. And then you had to, so this is why they would always pass the test. You had to be extra smart, pass the test, and they would pass it these because they've studied this in school. They out of these certain books, but we had different books all together. So therefore, it was pretty rough along those lines.
When you returned, how did going to the military and seeing, witnessing different things in different places, different parts of the world, and then coming back to Birmingham to a segregated society, how did that impact upon you?
Well, to tell the truth, this is just the way life was. And you knew that this was wrong. But hey, the federal government was on their side, the local government was on their side, law enforcement was on their side, so there's nothing you can do. They had the upper hand on it.
So did you witness any differences in India, in any other place that you may have been stationed, in terms of relationships between blacks and whites? I know the military was still segregated at the time.
It still is. To tell the truth, when you're in war zone like that, in certain parts, everybody's nice to each other. Because he might want to jump in my foxhole and I might want to jump in his foxhole. But it changes once you get off that ship in Seattle. Everything changes. Everything changes. There were soldiers that came back and going to a white restaurant to eat, and there was some black soldiers there. They wouldn't let them eat. You come in contact with all of these kind of things.
What was there anything that stands out in your mind that you personally experienced in that regard? Any of the segregation, any of the things that you had to witness or experience personally after you came back. You'd gone over, you served the country, you had fought, you could have been killed fighting for democracy, and then you returned. Was there anything that sort of stood out in your mind as a result of that?
No, not really. I guess that it was just a way of life, and you just, this is it. So,
but nothing had changed when you came back. You still had to sit in the back of the bus.
Right. Nothing had changed at all. So you left and you came back to the same thing, And even when we at school, we raised busters in, this upper city. when the white people wore out the buses, then they give them another. We had a new bus, but they had more about.
School buses?
School buses. You witness all of these kind of things. At one point, we were, can't remember just where we were, but we had some German prisoners, and we were feeding them. And one of the German prisoners told me, said, when I get back to America, I'm going to have you to shine my shoe. And right then, I didn't think too, but a few minutes, it dawned on me what he was saying. And he was a prisoner. The German prisoners got treated better
And the
than black soldiers.
That was very significant.
Yeah. So, like I say, it's just the way it was.
Now, were you a registered voter? At what point did you become registered?
I registered to vote during the civil rights stuff. Cause you go down there were a few black people, registered to vote. They said, they just on the book.
Yeah, not many were even on the book at that
That's
time.
right, not many on the book.
Well, why did you get involved in the movement?
I found out what they were doing, and what they were doing I thought was right. I said, well, I do all that I can do. And they would kind of teach you what to do, what to say. You can march. If you can't march, you give $1 to help others. And they just tell you what to do. And so many things that were said in the movement that if black people will do it or think about it today, they would be better off.
Like what, for instance?
Patronize your own people. You'd be shot, it would knock you off your feet to know the people that's supposed to be leaders that has bought a house and had got it financed through a white bank. It would knock you clean off your feet to know that. And this bank, AG's bank here, I said, we always give them the first shot. I went down there, got a house. His rates was just as cheap as any other bank in this town. And one thing that he had advantage over the other banks was that the other banks, in 10 days, if you didn't pay that note, they had a late charge. And he had 15 days before he had a late charge. That was in itself. And I talked with some people, I said, man, try to tell him, oh man, he didn't go right to it. And this is one thing that bothers me about black people. I cannot understand it.
You had mentioned also that you were concerned that blacks didn't take up with the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights immediately. Do you remember making that statement to Ms. Hendricks? That some supported, others didn't support?
Right. Well, some supported, others didn't. And I can understand that some of the people were afraid. I can go along with people being afraid. But if you're afraid to participate in something, you shouldn't be afraid to keep your mouth shut. And it was things that they could have done that would help. A lady out here went in a store, boycotting the store. She went in there and bought a dress. and one of the white clerks took the dress to the car for her. After she got to the car and got in the car, they called her down the road and took the dress and tore it up. Now, she didn't have to have that dress.
That was during the boycott of the downtown store.
Right. And so these are the things that I said that we could have done to help. Like I said, they just could have kept their mouth shut. And then there are some people, and what has happened now is that you got people that was against it. Not only were they against it, they talked against it, and they downsized it, and now, every time you look up, these people on the front line, just like they was right in the fight. And this what has gotten black people kind of pulling apart. Because just like I heard a lot of them say, crazy niggas out there, all be somewhere, I would be fooled with that mess. Other people heard it. Now you go somewhere, here they are, up front, and it has actually divided black people.
So you're saying a lot of those people now who are taking credit for being in the forefront of the movement really were not there.
Right. Interview them and ask them how many movies they went to. They was afraid to go.
That's interesting.
And not only were they afraid to go, they talked against the movie. Like I say, if they were afraid to go, afraid to throw $1 on the street and let somebody pick it up, keep their tongue in the mouth. And this is the thing that I see has hurt.
Yeah. You attended the mass meetings. How would you describe the mass meeting? What happened at those meetings?
A mass meeting was, what would actually strike you was see black people has come together. They would come together and nobody, you didn't catch them fussing and fighting. That was the thing that actually got me. They seemed to be together. And we used to go every Monday night, enjoy it. Because they had I wish they had taped some of them songs and things that they used to have back then, and just let these people see what saying was. I mean, we used to have a good time.
So they sang and they preached, there were speakers.
Yeah, there were speakers, and most time they had a speaker. There was a lot of preachers that were afraid. And like I say, if you're afraid, fine, but heck, not only were they afraid, they talked against it. Some churches wouldn't let them meet there. They was afraid. So, like I said before, a lot of people know this. And when they see these preachers up doing all this talk that would never be at their church, then that frustrates them. And then they begin to pull them apart. And for some reason, these are the people that got to know. How it happened, I do not know.
The people that didn't participate were the ones that got the job.
Right, they was the first. Well, I can understand it in a way, because you could bring 10 people in here and I could interview them. And I could pick out the one that is as they say, Uncle Tom. So what happened when it comes to the point that they had the House of Black, these are the ones who reached out to the job.
The ones that were less belligerent, less militant.
Right.
Did you participate in the demonstrations?
Like I said, I was there, but I didn't just say, get into them.
You saw on the sidelines?
Because, well, somebody had to work, and I was working at the time, and we wasn't supposed to participate. So,
Who told you you wasn't supposed to participate?
well, a lot of companies, people lost their jobs because they, and it's kind of scared people. So I just kind of played in the background and shoved them a dollar, a couple of dollars to keep them going.
You said that you were in the park, or near the park, during the demonstrations when the dogs and the water hose were brought out?
That was during the day, I think, but I was out here at the evening, see, I was working. And it was, well, I was down here, but not.
You didn't witness any of that?
Just, but it was something like, would always come down after I get off work.
Right. Did you ever see the actual dogs and water hoses out in force, or was that all done while you were at work?
Yeah, it was usually done during the day. And I would, come by afterward.
Right. Were others in your family involved in the movement?
And my family.
Yeah. Your wife or your children?
Well, they were a little too young at that particular time. She was, and we kind of did the same thing, we just met and like they would say, do what you can do. And if you can't do nothing, sit out over here in this corner and keep your mouth shut. And the thing that we did was gave a little money, participated in the movement, and things of this nature.
What would you say was the most important thing that came out of the movement?
The most important thing that came out of the movement. To me, the most important thing, is that I've learned that black people can unite. I say this, I said, I know it's hard, but they can come together, for one cause.
Right.
That's about that's one of the things that I, saw come out of it. And that's about the main thing.
Did you ever get the opportunity to see Reverend King?
Yeah.
Right.
Saw him all the time. We pray every time he was here. Tell the truth.
Did you ever meet him?
Not sit, just talk to him about it, maybe close enough to shake his hand. That's about it. I never talked to him.
Okay, is there anything else? We covered a lot of territory. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
No, not really.
That was one other question that I need to ask you. You are a member of the International Brotherhood of Electric Workers. Was the union at all involved in the movement?
No unions. Not as I know. Like I said, they said, whatever you can do. It's possible that the union could have given a donation. I don't know about that. I doubt it.
But they were not active.
No,
Actively involved.
There was nobody active.
Right.
So, as far as I know, and I'm quite sure that as wasn't anybody active.
All right. Well, that was very helpful, and I appreciate it. If there's anything else, you have opportunity to say anything you want to say. before we shut it off. But you've been very helpful so far. Is there anything else that you would like to include?
No, I would like to say that, I mean, because it's kind of pertaining to today, you know. I see if I could get black children to just listen to their parents, boy, it would be a blessing. If they would just listen, what I see wrong with people today, you learn, each generation is supposed to learn from the other. And I see young people doing things today that I did yesterday. And they supposed to be the ones above right now. And I see them, the same trick that was played on my daddy, they played it on me. Now I see them play the same trick on the children.
And what is that trick?
We're like Bunton, you know, but you, Mr. Mr. Bunton, you sure is nice man. And my daddy fell for it. And after he signed this paper, you know, then things was altogether different from what he was told. Things like credit card, you know, all these extortionate interest rates they got. And children just gentlemen, and I just feel like it's time for us to wake up. And, you know, if I used to try to raise a garden, and I never could get it going. So finally, an old man came down there, and he told me what to do. And I did what he told me to do. And I've been having a good garden ever since. That man had experience. So I listened to him, and I did what he told me to do. If black people would listen to their experience, forget about what kind. This man don't have no degree. But when he come down to digging in that earth, making a living, he got it. That's right. So if we as a people will forget about degrees and start listening to their experience, we gonna be better off. And until then, we'll be scuffed.
Thank you, Mr. Bunton. You've really said a mouthful. And I appreciate you taking your time.